Welcome everybody to this Meshery CI work group meeting. Uh, this meeting is happening every other Thursday. So here at this meeting, we see some issues or topics related to CI and testing. So please write down your name and your last name here in the attendees list. And if you have one topic to talk about, please add to the topics list. I added one that I just saw we created uh, today. So Lee is writing another one, and I see that you are writing others. So please write down other topics that you want.
Yeah. Another one, depending upon who all comes today, is the service mesh labs. In part because we sort of bring together CI and DevOps centric, ops centric things. So, Surya Shankar, since you're on, maybe, and since Anshu is here or whomever is interested, like maybe a discussion on service mesh labs. I'll drop that in.
Okay, sounds good.
Regarding the service mesh labs, like I was not able to open a single one of them. Like it was completely like erroring out for me.
Oh, no. Okay, it's definitely a topic then. Yeah, let's, okay, cool, good.
So if there is not topics to add here, and if you already wrote your name here, we can start with the list. The first one that I have here is one issue that Piyush just submitted, and is for upgrade the code workflow for line by line coverage. Here is the issue. I think Piyush is not in the call, but he's recommending to enable this line by line check in order to know where is the problem in the linting, for example. So I think we can add that in the code UI. I will read this in order to enable this. I think I have the enough permission to do. So the action team, the action item to do here is for me, and I will enable this in the code UI. So after I enable this, I will update the issue in order to grow to write there the screenshots that we enabled the by line coverage well. Do anyone has any other question related to this one?
Yeah. Oh, very good. Yep, it is. I mean, it is the Anshu. It is the one Anshu. Good. Rodolfo, briefly, you might not know this just yet, maybe in advance of having dug in here, but I guess one of the questions for me is, Yeah, I think part of the value of having this enabled is that it becomes, one is that you can, anyone can go look and see which lines are not covered. So like which lines, if you're going to try to get it from 30% to 50%, like, what's already covered so that that's helpful. I mean, that's really helpful, especially as we get to like higher percentages. It's like, okay, well, what isn't covered? So, and then it seemed like just from the snapshots, the screenshots that you were just kind of showing, it seemed like it seemed like CodeCov as an app might, well, I don't know if it would randomly suggest that someone write a unit test for something, because it's like, I think some of the other apps, they will, like, let's say that we've got a bunch of lint issues. It felt like in the past to me, like if there were 25 lint issues, that you might get a randomly selected set of 5 on a PR that just sort of tell you, like, there's all 25 that are reported, but you might get like a set of 5 like down at the bottom of the PR saying, oh, check this out, check this out. And I wonder if that's in part what would happen here or not, but just
yeah, good question. I need to review that. And you're right, this is for coverage line, no lint errors, as I mentioned. But yeah, I think once we enable this feature, we will see other checks behind the pull request description in order to know which lines are not covered.
Maybe the third benefit, actually, it's kind of in that screenshot right there. It's like, I think this is saying there's an individual that created a PR, they've contributed some code, and it looks like it's saying that the lines that were added in that PR, here's the lines that you have yet to cover. So like that can be really encouraging to, to those that are adding new code. Yeah, so that's good. That's cool.
Yeah, I think it's great to have this. So I will enable this week in order to close this issue. So the next one topic is from Lee. We need to reduce the Meshery service container image size. I think right now is 1.7 gigabytes, right? Yeah. So is a huge amount.
It's like, it's embarrassingly huge, actually. And it's a prohibitor to people potentially either using Meshery or contributing to Meshery. I think as a user, by default, if you just install the default configuration of Meshery, it downloads each of the Meshery adapters. The adapters themselves are they're pretty small. I mean, I think it's like between, maybe on average 70 megabytes or something, pretty small. But if that other one is taking, 5 minutes or however long to download, yeah, I think psychologically to the user, I mean, first of all, that shouldn't be happening. That's bad. That's what you need to address that. That's what this is about. But I think it also has a secondary effect that psychologically to the user, they're looking at like this list of 8 containers being downloaded, and in their mind, they're thinking like, oh, what kind of a ginormous beast is this project? And look at all these heavy containers. Or like if they're not paying attention, they might think that the whole thing is like that, rather than just sort of one problem child, so to speak. And so, we definitely want to reduce. Now, just for a bit of context, some of us were on the call the last time that we went over this, but a little bit of context is that Meshery includes support for 3 load generators, and 2 of them are written in C, or I'm sorry, one is in C, one's in C++. So WRK2 is the name of one of them, and Nighthawk is the name of the other one. And Nighthawk is so important to Meshery that we've created the Get Nighthawk project to help create builds and all this, these things. And sorry, I got distracted by a different note. So when Meshery, the Docker file for Meshery has different build stages, or I'm sorry, it has different stages, a build stage and like a production. And my ignorance comes in about here when we go to that second step. When we built some C and C++ things in phase 1, and we're going to intentionally, like the point of the second stage is to like slim that sucker down, like trim the fat. And I can't believe that, we don't, I can't believe that those two C++ programs require an image of that size. Like they don't need all of those kernel headers, or they don't need all the additional bloat. And so I'm convinced that we can reduce that. And so that's been a problem for a while. We've yet to have someone raise their hand and say, hey, let me really give that a try. And what's sort of happened in the time that we've been discussing this is that an acknowledgement of that Nighthawk in specific is the way that we're integrating Nighthawk. We would like for that to change within Meshery, and that being, we would like to go ahead and pull Nighthawk out of the Meshery server container image, put it into its own container. There's a negative, there's a positive and a negative. The negative of pulling it out. Okay, so the positive of pulling it out is that we might be able to reduce that image size, like because the whatever those requirements are can begin to go away. So that would be fantastic, because we're talking like dropping it to like 100 megs, 200 megs, something, okay, wonderful. Now there is the psychological effect that it'll have on people where they go to install Meshery, and again, by default, it would be like, instead of just 10 containers, like it's 11 containers, and and they're like, holy, what is this? But if they're all pretty tight, if they're all pretty slim, and it's kind of like of an application that is this capable, that has this many features, like what application do you not use today that isn't comprised of a couple of, it's a distributed app like others. And so I don't think I feel like that psychological effect is surmountable. Like I don't feel like people will push back that much. Now, there's another really big reason for pulling out the Nighthawk load generator into its separate container, and that's to facilitate a set of features around distributed performance testing. So, and I think Rudrox could be speaking to this is equally as well as I am, but it's to when someone runs a performance test, not just generate load from one load generator and have that, and analyze that, like that's great, but it's also to instantiate any number of those Nighthawk containers, and then invoke performance analysis and load generation that's coming from, that's multi-factored, so a distributed performance analysis. In order to do that, good, well then if we have Nighthawk separate, we can spin up different instances and share the load generation anyway. So that's and to Rudolfo's point, like I am dumbfounded that I couldn't find an open issue talking about the bloated.
So for that reason, I wrote this in order to create an issue and follow all the track on this issue. I think we have two issues. One is to separate the get Nighthawk code, and the other one this C and C++ that you mentioned. But I don't too familiar with that. But once I create the get Nighthawk, could you Lee create the other one for
Totally.
Great.
And well, here's I'll be honest and say that second issue is it's the easier of the two. And in part it's the easier of the two because Rudrox is sitting right here, and I know he's gonna help on that second one. Yeah, in part, so the thing is, like those artifacts, the C program and the C++ program, those artifacts are they're pretty tiny, small binaries. So like the container image size that would run one of those, we should be we're going to go on quite the diet. It's going to be good.
Okay. So,
just one thing. So from what I know, the stuff with C and C++ program is that they are not statically compiled. Like the binaries that are produced of them are not like Go binaries. So that's why we have to take care of some of those header files. But
And so, good to give us a leading or something that will give us an indicator as to how small we might be able to get the Nighthawk container is the Envoy project. I think they produce the container image today with Nighthawk in it. That'll give us some semblance of. So
okay.
Yeah.
okay, thanks, delusional optimist. So anyone has another comment about this one? If not, we can continue with the next one. And the next one is propagation of issue remind label and label commenting workflow. I'm not familiar with this one. Is this label new?
Yeah, it is relatively new. Would it be okay if I maybe demoed it to show you what it is intended to do? If that's okay, I'll share my screen to.
Sure.
Okay. Right. Yeah. So all right. So we have as a general phenomenon, not specific to this project, but contributors come by and find open issues, raise their hand and say that they like to work on something. And either in that scenario or the scenario where contributors have been here a real long time, been working on all kinds of things, but not all of the things that they sign up for land, or like, stuff gets stalled and people forget about things, stuff happens. And so, we've got 162 open issues just in this repo, and there's a lot of repos. So, occasionally going by and checking in on people, making sure that they're not stuck, or, trying to support them, or trying to figure out if it's time for someone else to work on the issue. That's a good curation activity, good kind of project management activity. And it can get a little old, like writing down the same thing every time, or like, hey, just checking in and how are you doing? Can we help you? And it's like, well, so there's, in a few of the repos, like I think that this is broadly propagated already. I believe that if you go to the vast majority of their repositories across the 4 orgs, by the way, because when we donated Meshery, when we donated Service Mesh Performance, when we created Service Mesh Patterns, so there's the layer, there's a few orgs, and the more consistent that they are, the better, because a lot of us work across, all of them. And that there's simple workflows that can be run when you affix a label. Excuse me. Excuse me. And so we had written a label. So we created a label. There's a category of labels called, they kind of start with, actually, I think most, including Rodolfo, knows this, but just there is, we try to document the crap out of a lot of things. And one of those things is process. So there's a process about GitHub, layer 5 GitHub process. And this is slightly dated, but pretty close, I think. And that is like, hey, what labels do we have, and what was their purpose, and like how are they in? Anyway, there's a collection of labels. Issue invite. Okay, yeah, that's another one that's pretty interesting. We could talk about another time. Invalid stable fix. So basically whenever there's an issue, whenever labels are added to issues or pull requests, there's a workflow that will kick off that in this case, it will say, if we go over and look at that, the configuration of that, it says that if you apply a label to with the name issue/remind, then when an issue is labeled, so if you apply that label to an issue, then it'll say this, checking in, it's been a while since we've heard from you on this issue, or you blah, blah, blah. And please let us help you. And so the note here is just to do maybe a spot check on whether or not the label has been propagated to the repos, which, there's a, my goodness, there's a repo template that has all these 70 something labels defined. And we generate we just got done creating 2 new repos last week, and we did those from template. And so they benefit from having all the predefined labels associated. When we generate from template, that template also includes, a number of predefined workflows, but it's not retroactively applied. So there's no doubt that there's some repos that need this configuration added, or not just the configuration, they might also need, so this is the configuration for the comments, but to actually enable that workflow, this guy right here might need to be propagated. And it just needs to be propagated verbatim to the other. It's just it just triggers when someone applies a label. And so, but yeah, in the past,
we need to add this configuration to the other repos under layer 5 organization, right? Okay, so I think
I want to tell something. So Lee, actually I was looking into this issue remind part, but I want to show you something like to get more clearance. Can I share my screen once?
Sure.
Okay. So I think you are asking this like whenever we will label like this, add a label of issue remind, then a GitHub action will be like this, and here it will say that whatever the statement is like this way.
correct.
Okay.
Yep, there are examples of where that runs for us today. I'll grab an example and show you kind of what it looks like.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just see that Rudrash is interested on working on this one. So please, could you create an issue on the repo that you will add this label in order to open a PR and link that issue, Rudrash? But thanks for the help. Okay, I see that Anshu, and also I think Sayantan was speaking. Yeah.
Yep, that's right.
Okay, I will also you. If you have some question, please let us know in Slack. But yeah, first create the issue in the repo that you are working in order to know who is working in which repo and not have duplicated work.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, thanks everyone. So we can continue with the next topic. Okay, so the next topic is error code utility workflow doesn't create commits in Meshery repo for some adapters. I remember something like this is that in Go we are creating for GraphQL, if I am not wrong, some code errors. Or I don't remember if it is GraphQL or API in general, but we are generating or Go, but we are generating error codes, right?
Yeah, so the error codes utility that was created by Michael, and we are using them in various adapters and various components to publish. Uh, Let me paste a link to that. Error codes are, yeah. So I think I'll explain what's the trouble, and if someone wants to take it up, I'll share my screen.
Okay.
Okay. So basically, what's happening right now, if you go to the issue that I've created, this workflow here, it handles some of the Git stuff manually. Like if you see, it's creating a commit on its own, and this is very hastily thought logic on if there were no changes, then don't create a commit and don't fail the workflow and exit gracefully. So we can skip this if we use this action here as well. So right now this action commits to the same repository, but with a little configuration, this will also commit to the Meshery repository. So what's happening right now, this logic doesn't take care of the files that were not created earlier. And that's why for some adapters which have this workflow, the error reference is not getting published. If if a successful commit is created, you would see something like this on the Meshery repo. So it's working for the Link30 adapter. However, for some of the adapters, it's not working, and a graceful solution to that would be stop doing this and use this action. I have a link to this here as well. So we can specify the repo name in it as well, and it will take care of it. So are there any person who would like to work on this? Just put your name here first. Comment here and I'll assign this to you. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, I'd like to work on it.
Nice. Cool.
So can you assign to Surias in order to start working on that?
Yep. So you'll need to commit here first so that I can assign.
Yeah.
Cool. And this will be a good thing. Like you'll also need to take care of spreading it into other repositories where we are still not able to do this. Like Istio is an example. Other than this, if you go to Nginx, you'll see the same issue there as well. And basically, every adapter that you don't see here has this issue, and you have to help You can also bring in other contributors and take them into this. So thank you for working on this.
Great. Thanks, Rudrax, for the explanation. I just assigned to Surya Shankar in order to start working on this one. Thanks. So here I assigned you. If you have any question, please let us know.
Yeah.
Great. So before continuing with the next topic, there is another question about you that is the CodeCov workflow supposed to run for all pushes in forks? It usually ends up in error. I don't remember if this happens on every commit on or every push, but we need to check that.
Yeah, like right now, like in my Meshery's fork, I just fetched the upstream and like merged it, and this resulted in the workflow run. Like this is not for any pull request or anything, just a normal push to the fork.
Okay, so we need to disable for forks, right?
Yeah, I can also
Okay.
like work on that. Like I know how to do that.
Okay, sounds good. Let me check that. Disable CodeCov checks for forks. Okay. Thanks for pointing out that. And continue with the next topic. Is all is service mesh labs. The thing that you mentioned before. So
Yeah. Surya Shankar, do you want to?
Yeah, can I share my screen?
Yeah.
So is it visible?
It is.
So like this is one of the errors I get. I end up with this first, like no such file or directory. But this is like only one of them. Like this is not persistent. Like sometimes I get it, sometimes I don't. But even if I don't get it and it's like works, then when I select the provider, like nothing happens. It just like reloads the same select provider page. And let me see if I can show it. I'll just refresh the page. So it usually gives out some random errors every time. I even tried it with a different browser.
So one thing that's important to note here, and I'm not sure if it's consistent or not, but the ephemeral environments that are created on the fly, that's happening before our eyes. Katacoda has 4 to 6 or 8 different images to choose from, and they start you at different. They have different starting points. Like there's one image for Ubuntu, and it's just Ubuntu. They have another image that's Ubuntu plus Minikube, and I think this is probably that one. They have different versions, and like the one that we ideally use is like one that already has a running Kubernetes that's already up and ready to go, and then we just start installing. We just let the user start installing Meshery from there, and so that's definitely like a considerate, like something for us to verify is like, what are the available images? Which one are we using? Does it get us the furthest down the road so that users don't have to sit here and wait on this? Yeah.
Like, is this supposed to happen like when it's not ready, nothing's happening, even if I click something?
It might be a behavior of what do you call it, Katacoda itself. Like if you type in kubectl get nodes, I mean
I can't type anything.
oh yeah, it doesn't let you type anything. Huh. So if you, out of curiosity, just if you click on the maximize button in the upper right hand corner.
Okay. I still can't type it.
Yeah. Okay, if you click on the now, so that's an issue, right? And we have to figure out, you're running Brave right now, right?
Yeah.
So that seems like a browser.
None of these issues are like consistent, but like I always face some issue or the other, like regardless of the browser.
Okay. Yeah, that's bothersome. That's frustrating. That's in part why we have a project to create the world service mesh playground. Like we do want to do this and do it really well. But until we get there, we'll have to leverage Katacoda. So this particular issue right here seems like a Brave / Katacoda challenge. Before you nav anywhere too far, can you click on the kubectl get nodes again? And if it doesn't,
Yeah, it's not working.
Okay, can you click on the curl L, the next command?
Still nothing.
Cool. Okay, so this is almost got nothing to do with Meshery and our labs specifically. It's just got much more to do with like, does your browser like Katacoda, or does your browser allow Katacoda to be embedded in another environment? Like, there's some.
Yeah, like look at this. This is the same issue, and this is in Firefox. Firefox is a pretty popular browser, I'd say.
Oh, sure. Yeah. No, nothing against Brave either. I'm just trying to identify where the issue is. So I don't know if like, and this is part.
Can you run this in a private app with some of those extensions away? Your extensions might be causing a problem here.
Yeah, I haven't checked it in Firefox, but in Brave, like I disabled all my ad blocks for this site. And it's also not like it never works, like it just mostly does not work.
Right. Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess it's working now.
No, yeah, but that doesn't mean that. I mean, it doesn't mean that what
Yeah.
you're saying isn't true. That
Yeah.
like, I'm not. Oh, I don't know if that's typical of Katacoda or like. Were you using the Istio lab all of the times?
Istio lab. Like For the previous issue, like I tried it on all the labs, it was the same in Brave at least.
Okay, that's good. Because that tells us that narrows down the trouble point. I think one thing that might be happening is that, so I'm trying right now with the Meshery and Istio lab, and I get the same experience that you just had, which is like, it just kind of leaves me sitting there with nothing going on conceptually. And so I click on kubectl get nodes. It's like, I don't know what you're talking about. Okay. So then I click on the next step and it's doing, it's downloading Meshery like this. So the question becomes is like, well, so does this node already have, does this environment already have Kubernetes available? Or is Minikube auto installing in the background like it says? But if it's in the background, how does the user know? Or like,
Yeah.
and that might mean that like, okay, hey, look, like this is a known issue with Katacoda or it's not, but maybe we would include a small script that runs that says, is Minikube being installed? And if not, like tell the user to do something, like maybe we have to overcome this.
Okay, it finally worked. Oh wait, no. An unexpected error has occurred.
Yeah. Okay. And where are you at in the dashboard?
Just the dashboard of the issue lab.
Yeah. That's
Meshery server logs.
Where can I access them?
If you go to the terminal, and it's a Docker-based environment, so I guess Docker logs Meshery underscore Meshery space and the follow flag hyphen F.
Enter.
Yeah.
or, yeah, I think it ended up being _1 Meshery underscore.
This.
Yep.
System does not have enough free resources.
No, that happens sometimes. Doesn't cause anything like this.
Adapter could not be pinged.
Depends on the service mesh that we are trying to access. It's for Istio, so I guess this is not so relevant as well. This is looking normal.
So so Yushenko, like this is great. This is great that you're going through it. Like I do anticipate that there are issues within here that the labs need to be updated.
I found a lot of issues, but none of them are reproducible. So I don't know what to do with them.
Okay. Well, we should raise that, but like, even if it's just, hey, in Brave doesn't like this, or like, even if it's just like, we should be raising those up as issues on GitHub. And like, I know Suhani has called for, volunteers and things, but I haven't really seen many things being fixed or addressed. I just,
initially, like what I was planning was just exploring the labs first, and then like if I found any minor issues, then I can like do something about it in GitHub. But right now, I can't even access them properly.
Yep. No, and that's good. I mean, like, you gotta start there. Like, that's the, so hopefully you can see my screen.
Yeah.
well, I think I just lost my environment because I maximized it, but it was, this is my environment. Like this is the Catacota, and this loaded for me. I just chose the none provider like you did, and this loaded. Again, like that's an inconsistent behavior, which, you know, is bothersome because it's like, well, what's the issue? So this one right here, like to me, this is wrong already. Like, okay, so the session started and the user is just sitting here going, okay. Now, by the way, I've seen this on other people's labs, not just ours. So it's like, okay, well, what am I supposed to do something? So I guess I'm supposed to do kubectl get nodes, or it does say this session will auto install Minikube and set other environment variables necessary to run Meshery. This may take
shell.sh like sets everything up, and that's not running properly right now. It's not found.
Oh, I missed the first part of what you said.
That shell.sh usually sets stuff up. So if that's not found, like nothing will be working, I guess.
It's pretty weird. It's almost like that gets called a little too early or something. Like, no
Yeah.
such file. Because yeah, so we might want to write our own little check, you know, to like make sure to give this thing a kick if it doesn't do what it's supposed to do. So definitely raise an issue, please, please, please. If I will eventually, I'll say this, like, so we've been, I think you're hot on the trail. This would be great. Please do it. If you don't, I'm eventually just going to close this down for everyone and stop asking people to help. I'm just going to go, I'll just go fix it. And then, and that's got nothing to do with you as much as like, it's just a perpetual frustration for me that this seems like such a great thing for so many of the contributors to come and work on and learn what DevOps are and like, and service meshes and play with them and learn them. But no one has really sunk their teeth in. And so out of nothing more than just frustration, I think I would stop asking. Yeah, definitely like the Brave. You should definitely file the issue about Brave. Like, not that Brave is a bad browser in any respects like that. Like the point is to make sure that it is supported if there are things we have to do.
So this little message that I just sent in the chat is about Bash not working like this in some of the environments. I'm not exactly sure what is this, but it is a caveat with Bash sometimes that it doesn't work like this in all the environments. So for this, we tend to use env bash in bash scripts. So,
okay, but I think Bash is working. Like Bash is giving out the error in this case, I guess.
yes, it is, but just to make sure that it is something that we should take care of. Like, nice to have.
So there's a number of contributors that have been given access to this as well. Do you know what image we're starting with? So Yushenko, you're not familiar with that, are you?
No.
I would think that it would be defined inside of the. So these are the labs, these are the scenarios. If we go into like the one that we were just doing, the Istio, I'm a total ignoramus here. Like I have no idea how this, I haven't done any of this, but so I don't know if the image, where we would specify the image. Step 1, background, echo, assets, intro, index. It would seem like this is the one that would define the type of image being used. Okay, so client 1, false ingress. There it is, image ID, Minikube. So Catacoda images. Supported environments. We can make our own, which could be like pre-installed with, but so here's the supported environments that the image ID is what controls this. The one that we have set is called Minikube. Minikube. Okay, what's the details of the Minikube? Where's the Minikube? So it's interesting because Minikube literally doesn't seem to match an image ID. But clearly one of these Ubuntus is being used. Anyway, see this 2-node kubeadm, like designed for teaching how to use Kubernetes from scratch, 2-node. Like it'd just be nice if it already had Minikube running, Docker installed and running, Docker installed and running, great. But what about Kubernetes pre-installed, pre-configured? So like maybe we should be switching to Kubernetes cluster running. That sounds about right to me. Would anyone like to try this out? Like, by the way, whenever a commit is merged into the here, it is a webhook that fires and then just automatically. I don't know, and this is just my ignorance. Like, I don't know what the best practices are for testing before you actually publish that kind of a thing. But and that's just if anyone, I'm willing to give. Like, if anyone wants to is gonna dig into this, let's get you access to the behind the scenes here, so that in case that's helpful in terms of I don't know, in terms of hold on, builds metrics dashboard organizations. So layer 5, good, there's 5 members. So Nikhil, Lee, Devendu, Suhani, Utkarsh just ignored it.
Can you send an invite for me,
Yeah.
please?
Oops.
I will post my email on chat.
I think
Yeah, that one.
Nice. All right.
Also, can you share with us the link for Kubernetes image in order to reference in the notes? Okay, great.
Nice. Perfect.
So for now, like, should we try just replacing the Minikube image ID with the Kubernetes one?
I think that, yeah, for sure. Yes, please. Because that may, like, the suggestions that Rudrox was just saying, those make a lot of sense to me. But also, if we can leapfrog past having to wait for Minikube to install, and like it's just Kubernetes is right there at the command prompt. Oh, great. Well, let's just start with Meshery. Let's not have to think around with Kubernetes.
Okay, sounds good. Any other comment? I think we are close to ending the hour. No?
No.
Okay. So I think we have enough action items in order to start working on. So please, thank you for your attendance for this meeting. We will have this meeting again in 2
Oh,
weeks.
I apologize.
Yeah,
Really
no
quickly,
worries.
if you can, and that is that Anshu has been, kind of waiting patiently for a little while to talk about this. I had made a comment not too long ago saying that the auto-generated release notes that that they categorize as they auto-generate the release notes as release drafter auto-generates those notes, that it will categorize pull requests, the updates under like the maintenance category or the docs category or the new features category based on labels, PR labels on the PRs. So if labels are added to PRs before they're merged, that makes the release notes even more easy to digest, potentially even more interesting for people, because if there's the enhancements label, then great, then it gets categorized. And we're trying to get to a point where we're sending out emails about release announcements like fairly often. And so, okay, well, us humans can try to make sure that most of the PRs are labeled before we merge, but it's another step, another thing to remember. It's like, well, so too we're already, so anyway, we can auto label pull requests based on where files have been changed in what file paths. And then consequently, when the release notes are generated, yeah. So Anshu, that's it. That's the description.
I see. Okay, so it's something that we can change in order to take the labels instead of the paths.
Yeah, or I think right now, release drafter that creates those notes, I think it's using the labels, and I think that's okay. What the manual thing that I think we can automate some is when someone opens a pull request, most of those pull requests are not being auto labeled based on what files were changed. They are being auto built, like certain, like Golang is built or the docs are built based on file path. But if we just add a label in there too, then great, then our release notes get even better.
Okay, so you are you recommending that we should add the right labels at opening one pull request?
Yeah.
Okay. I will put that in the meeting notes. Please add the right label to at opening pull request in order to be.
Anshu, this is your chance, man. I ask the questions now, or forever hold your peace. Or forever.
Great.
I think that was just kind of a note about what we were just. Oops. Nice.
Great. Sounds good. So I think it's all for today. Thanks for attending to this meeting, and see you all in 2 weeks.
Thank you, Rafa.
Have a good day or night. Bye.
Bye, guys. Bye.
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 Bye.